How do you know that?
How do you know that?
How'd you know that?
Shock the nation, bud.
What's going on, Chad?
Yeah, see what's going on. Another good Saturday night. Talking about what?
It's another song. You always start out like that. Every time.
All right, well, here, I'll do something different. All right, cut two. How you doing, Jesse? I'm doing great.
Yep, there we go. I was just laughing because it's always the way you come in. Oh, what do we got?
We gotta act like we haven't talked. I mean, that's how you gotta do it, right?
Did we talk before?
Obviously, we've been talking for an hour.
Anyways,
so hey, what I want to do tonight is our first FNDT, and go over some stuff here, and this is kind of the alien thing, and so we talked about in the past about what was going on in Peru, the Peru face peelers. So do you remember me kind of talking about that? We didn't go on specifics really all in all about it, but because this is an FNDT, I want to talk about how this gentleman, and I'm going to pull up his name here, Timothy Alberino, he actually went to Peru and investigated it. So unlike, our buddy Neil, he went down there and investigated this story. And, so the original story was, and it was national, not only national, world news, right? So in Peru, there was a town. I'm not even going to try to figure out what town it was. I'm not even going to go there. It was in Peru. And they were saying that these alien things were coming and snatching people. And they were on like these hoverboards. And big alien things, right? And they're snatching people. And they were peeling their faces off, is what they were saying. So some of the pictures and stuff that we showed, and I thought we showed, and you said you don't remember seeing it. So I want to show kind of a little excerpt of a video so we can show what we're talking about, what they look like. And understand it's terrible video. I mean, it's not the best. So I hope people understand it's not the best video, but here we go, so you can kind of see what we're talking about.
And they're flashing their lights into the trees around their village. And in some of these videos, I'm going to pretend that you can clearly see tall, gray aliens. Tall, gray.
Terrible pictures there.
yeah, they're not very good.
No. But that's what we're talking about. So, we're talking about things like that. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit. So right there, you can kind of see this. That's what they're saying is the hoverboard. They're saying it's some sort of hoverboard, right? So what we were talking about before is when the news media was coming in, and what they were saying was, hey, really what's going on here in Peru is it is some sort of mining company coming in trying to drive people out of their land. And they're using these jetpacks going in and taking these people and doing whatever. So they kept talking about the people in Peru, they kept saying these dudes are on hoverboards, right? Well, then the news media says, no, they're jetpacks. Well, number one, the jetpacks, those things are freaking expensive, right? I mean, I don't know what something like that runs, but it's probably super expensive. Where do you go buy a jetpack to? I mean, it's not like you can just go.
You make them, Chad.
Well, you can make them. I mean, I've never looked on Amazon to see what a jetpack costs, but I'm pretty sure I can't buy one, right? I mean, maybe I can if I got $100,000 or something. But why would a company go, hey, got an idea. What we're going to do is we're going to buy these jetpacks, and then we're going to go in these towns, and we're going to scare people and make them think that we're aliens. So I know what a jetpack looks like. You know what a jetpack looks like. Why would people not know what a jetpack is?
I don't.
Right?
I've never seen one.
You've never seen a
Never
jetpack?
seen a jetpack.
Really? Well, I've seen
One
them.
jetpack is $300 to $400. One jetpack is $300,000 to $400,000.
Yeah, they're freaking expensive. I mean, they're crazy expensive, right? I mean, anyway. So that was what the news media was saying was dudes in jetpacks. And they're just trying to drive people out, right? So then you've got the fact of, though, what isn't huge in the news media, but what the people that live in this town, they're saying, look, they're killing these people. They're peeling their faces off. Okay, number one, why are they peeling their faces off? And number two, how do you do it?
Chad,
How?
it's the ultimate way to scare people. If they just see someone else's face get peeled off, Chad, they're dipping out.
Well,
They're
yeah.
going to leave.
Okay, I understand that. But how do you peel someone's face off?
Simple.
How would,
It's like you skin a deer.
I just disagree. Have you ever skinned a deer's face?
I mean, do it.
I want to see you do it. I want to see you post a video of that.
Well, probably not on here.
I would think that would be hard to do. I mean, I do.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think that would be hard to do. To actually peel it off.
Well, Chad, I think it's minors on jetpacks. So I think you're wrong.
All
How does
right.
that sound?
Well, okay, Neil. So
You're just one of those conspiracy theorists.
no, I'm going to start calling you Neil now. So, and again, we're going to go with the FNDT. So this is the FNDT segment. And
Yep.
so Neil,
Someone's got to disagree with you, Chad.
and that's true.
I'm kind of with Neil on this.
And I appreciate that. I do. But I do know that Timothy went down there. He investigated it, which is more than I can say for Neil on the other Peru things, the bodies found in Peru.
Antonio, what's his credentials? Is he a scientist?
No, but he's not. But he's got an idea, and it's a good idea. And here's what his idea was: I'm gonna go and investigate it and see what I find. And that's I'm gonna come to the conclusion after I investigate it and see what I see. So there you go.
Well, I don't think he truly investigated it. I only saw that one girl that he talked to.
Well, he did.
And
So
she could
he
just be playing
he did talk to this one girl. So she was a survivor of an attack. And if you go and look at his video, you know, and I'm just gonna give you his name. You can go and search and look the video up yourself. It's Timothy Alberino. It's Alberino. Okay. What she claims, and from the video and the footage, she's got 2 marks on her neck. Okay, and they're cuts, but they were cut and what do you call it when they burn something back together? Cauterized. They were cut and cauterized at the exact same time. So he claimed that it wasn't a knife that they were using; it was more of like a laser knife of some sort, a laser scalpel, and they were trying to cut around her neck and then peel her face off, and she somehow got away. What she also claims is one of them spoke Spanish and one spoke English. And the person that spoke English, she called a gringo. So she called that person a gringo, and she claims that they were 10 feet tall. Both of them were at least 10 feet tall. So, which is odd. And they had some sort of exoskeleton type of suit that was kind of a metal suit on.
Those are mining suits, and they had stilts on.
You're right. You're 100% correct. So, but his conclusion,
and the knife, the laser knife, that's a torch. Boom. A cutting torch, like a welding torch.
Didn't even think of it. Well, could it have been what's the torches that they use as the rods? Arc weld. Maybe they use an arc welder. Yeah, or a plasma welder to cut your neck.
See?
So yeah. So
you don't
okay.
Think about these things, Chad.
Neil, I am so glad I have you on, and I really appreciate that. I really do. So, but but
I'm glad
back to what Timothy his conclusion was he disagrees with the fact that the news media is putting out that these are miners coming in with jetpacks. He said that the people he interviewed, they know what a jetpack is. They know what it looks like. These platforms that these guys were on, they actually had two. One would bring them down to the ground and then take them back up to the original platform, and then they would take off. He said it was weird what they were saying, and multiple witnesses saw this. They saw the attack of this girl. But the big thing is, one, he doesn't believe it's a mining company coming in because he says they don't have that type of technology. And number two, the news medias are, they're talking about how they're doing this to get people out of this town so they can come in and mine this area. So the town that they're talking about is 30,000 plus people. So imagine a few dudes going around trying to drive out 30-some thousand people out of a town so they can mine it. That just doesn't seem feasible, does it? I mean, just the thought process of doing that. Wouldn't you have like 1,000 dudes on jetpacks coming in to scare people versus 2? I mean, that would make more sense, if that's what they're really trying to do. I mean, that's a lot of people to drive out, I would think.
What were you saying earlier about, the Sean Ryan show, the guy that says that in crises they, you can explain that piece.
Yeah,
there,
so, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You were the one that told me this, and then I did watch the episode of Sean Ryan on this. So, and I don't know the name of the individual. I think he was in the Army, but I don't remember what he was in, what branch he was in.
He was a Marine.
He was a Marine.
Because they were in that, he was in that help division that went over to that earthquake, and he talks about how they sent them over. He was a medic, and then he was trying to help people during the earthquake.
So he went over,
or whatever happened.
Yeah, I can't remember what natural disaster it was, but he went over, and they were there to help people, but they also had a division of dudes with guns, right? I mean, they were there to support them to help, and they somehow came across these dudes that sounds really similar to this. They had exoskeleton type of material. They were carrying things. There was a craft. They came across some sort of craft, and it was hovering like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. and they were carrying on these big boxes into the craft, and everything was hovering. It wasn't touching the ground. So he said they were carrying these boxes, and they were just pulling, like one guy would pull a box, and it was a big box, and it was like it weighed nothing to them. And
it was a crate.
Yeah, it was
those Connexes.
Yeah, and he said it looked to him as if a person was in each crate. Is how he described it. So it was that kind of size. And they were just kind of carrying these things on, and they came across these dudes, and boom, guns are drawn, and he said they were surrounded, like instantly surrounded, before they knew what was going on. Like they saw it, and then boom, they're surrounded. And they were told, drop your weapons, walk away, and forget you saw anything that you see. And
keep in mind, they're not explaining these guys that surrounded them. They were Americans. Like, they were not Americans, but they
spoke English. Human. Yeah, they spoke English, human. And they were human. Human. Yeah, they were human. And they were big. I mean, from what I remember, he said they weren't just in fatigues, right? They had things on them, and they were big, but they had guns drawn on them, and he said we couldn't see faces. They had stuff on them, like some sort of armor around them. Yep. And he said they spoke in English, and we could understand them, and they said, look, walk away, drop your weapons, and forget you saw anything. Otherwise, you're dead, basically. And like the dudes who are the dudes, like they're the badass guys, right? With the guns, with their team, they kind of were looking around like, what do we do? And they instantly kind of went, yeah, we're dropping our weapons because we can't deal with these guys. They knew, right?
And he talks about how they were obviously prior service because of how they handled themselves with their weapons, how they checked them and patted them down and everything. And they were taunting, those guys in the suits were taunting them while they were leaving. Like, if you turn around, we're going to, fucking shoot you. And and they were just taunting them all the way up the hill before they got out.
And that reminds me, so, you take this story and then back to the other Peru story that we're talking about. So in the Peru story, they talk about, like, they see these things in the trees and on these hoverboards, and there's people that are shooting at them. They're hitting them directly, and either whatever is hitting them is passing through them or bounces off like it's no big deal, right?
Yep.
So then you take back to the Sean Ryan story with these individuals. Who's to say they're not wearing some sort of armor or something on them that they know, look, you can shoot me point blank and you're not going to do anything to me. I got you. I mean, walk away. And that's the thing that they talk about. You hear these stories from all these people that had these encounters or whatever, and they talk about it. They talk about shooting them and nothing happens. And then you talk about, in the Sean Ryan story, they're taunting them like, make our day. We want to do something today. Shoot at us because you're not going to hurt us, but we have the green light to take you out. It's kind of like that, right? I mean, they're like, come on, do something. And
then he talks about when he gets back onto the ship to head back to America, he had his camera on him, right? So it was like a GoPro. So he filmed some of this transaction, right, with these guys. And, he filmed that interaction with those guys, not transaction, sorry, interaction. When he gets back on the ship, he goes up to eat, leaves stuff in his locker. He locked his locker, and when he comes down, his locker looked like normal, opened it up, and his locker was clearly gone through, and his camera was stolen. And I guess he somehow managed to get the chip out of the camera that was confiscated from him, gave it to, Dr. Greer. So that's something that's given to the government, right? Well, his commander had called him in and told him, whatever you saw out there, you keep to yourself, or, it's your career, your life.
Right.
So,
yeah, so, I mean, that's just weird stuff, right? So you got these guys that crazy experiences, right? And we think about what kind of technology do we have? And that's going to kind of lead on to what we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. But what kind of technology do we have out there? And what kind of black budget programs are going on that we just don't know about?
Well, like if you watch the, Stephen Greer, he gets on there, Dr. Greer, on Sean Ryan, and he starts talking about, Raytheon, Lockheed Skunk Works, and what they all have, and blah, blah, blah. And, some of it starts to make a little bit of sense, if you just kind of add up what he's talking about.
Yeah,
But
I mean, exactly. I mean, and I would tell, the viewers and listeners, go out there and research. Look at all the stuff that people are coming out with, and then I guess come to your own conclusion. My belief is throw away 50% of what's said and figure 50% of it's true. And you can come up with kind of an idea of what's going on. Basically, my belief is a lot of this stuff is true, and it is the private industry that has the knowledge and are developing things. And that isn't always a good thing. And, a lot of that stuff gets militarized and turned into whatever, right? And so then, you look at that and then take on, as we talked about in the episode of, kids and kidnapping and slavery and all that. And that may be where this is kind of heading. I mean, it's a money stream, right? It very well could just be a way to make money and turn it around to just be a profitable industry. I mean, it's just a sad thing. I mean, because, if you look at these natural disasters, people are pronounced dead, missing, whatever. Those people aren't missed, right? Because they're presumed dead. You can go in there and take those people and do whatever you want with those people. And there you go. And that's just a conclusion that I've come up with, and we've talked about that. And I believe in that interview with Sean Ryan, that's kind of where they were heading, was the same type of thing as human trafficking. It's an industry that, they look at events like that and go, hey, we can go take people and no one's going to know. And there you go. It's a done deal.
Well, he says that's, what it was. I mean, they had these crates with women and small children in them, and they're just loading them up. And he said when they took off, I mean, they were gone, and
Right.
No one's going to, like you said, they're just going to pronounce them dead or missing or whatever. But, I mean, that's what he was saying. He thinks that's like a charade for human trafficking.
Yeah, because
not like the natural disaster.
Right. Well, because they're lost
really
in the natural disaster, because the natural disaster happened, and you can claim, yep, they were just a victim of the natural disaster. They're one of the missing. Yeah. So, and that's sad. I mean, you think that's just horrible. And if that's truly what's going on, and as we're going to talk about in a little bit, what's going on next week, that is why some of the people in the government don't want this, disclosure to happen, because this is going to come to light, and, people are going to jail. I mean, you would hope. I mean, maybe not people going to jail, but you would hope.
Well, no one still went to jail for the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. So.
Right. So, I mean, you would hope it comes out in the public, view, so people can see really what's going on. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I mean, that's basically the conspiracy. That's what's going on. I mean, it's not so much that, aliens exist. Well, I mean, if you pay attention and do they probably do exist, or whatever it is. I mean, whatever they are, something's there. But it's using that technology that they have off of crashed vehicles or whatever, and re-engineering it and doing really bad things. That's where this is heading. That's where what I'm seeing. That's the bad of all this.
Did you see that interview with Tucker Carlson? And there's another guy interviewing him, and I guess Tucker and that interviewer had a conversation about some of this stuff. And he says, well, one thing, we can't deny is we have UFOs in possession, right? He said it's documented by the Pentagon. We know we have that stuff. And he said, there's so much to this story, he said, that I don't feel comfortable talking about it on an interview. And the interviewer's, I don't think we should either, because it's life-changing knowledge, right? So it differs the way you look at what's going on right now. Like, he says that he would never want his kids or wife to know some of the information that's came out on that.
And that's it, because it would just make you sick, right? I mean,
yeah, he said it when he first got some of the information. Tucker said that it was hard for him to sleep for a couple weeks. Like, he was just like thinking about it, like, gosh, that's just crazy.
Right. And I truly think that's where this is heading. And I might be wrong. It may be something more sinister or less sinister, but I think that's where this is heading. I really do. And, when you think about all that, it's like, who are the people taking the people, right? I mean, think about that. I mean, you don't even think about that until later. I mean, once you process if what we're saying is true, then you got to start thinking about who are the people taking those people and why. Is there something even more that we can't comprehend? I mean, is it more than just human trafficking, or is there something more to it? If
you don't know, they could be testing on them. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, right.
Yeah.
I mean, is there things like that? Or if there is an alien presence, is there a reason? I mean, are they taking people, and then why? Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. It's just weird. I don't want to go down that road, because I don't know. I mean that's nothing that I have any information on. It's just something I think about. What is the reason?
When Tucker talked about how he would never displace the information he got to his kids or his wife, because he said it would almost make life feel pointless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and what could that be? I mean, if it made life feel pointless, what could that information be? And that's sad, right? I mean, so how much information do we not know? I mean, how much do we not know? That's the sad part.
Probably a lot, right?
Right. And again, we're sitting here talking about something that there's people out there going, this doesn't exist. This isn't true. There's no such thing. And wow, really? Again, we're going to go into something here a little bit later. If this didn't exist, if UFOs or UAPs or whatever didn't exist, boy, there's an awful lot of energy, money, effort, time being spent on it. And it's been spent for a long time, but it's been kind of hidden and not in the public view. But now it's in the public view, and there's a lot of energy and effort being spent on. I'm just going to call it UFOs, because I'm tired of the UAP thing. It's UFOs in my mind. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and people really need to wake up. I mean, truly.
What if they're putting it in the public eye because they can't obviously hide it anymore, right? It's to the point now where you can't really hide it.
Well, and I agree with you there. And if it wasn't real, if it just wasn't real, right? Why would the government just not come out and go, it's bullshit. This doesn't exist. And here's how we know it doesn't exist. They're not doing that, dude. They're starting up a new program at NASA for UAP, and the Pentagon has a UAP task force now, and it's a real thing. And people need to wake up and start looking at the evidence that's out there and go, what is that? What is that? You know, there's videos every day of people putting things out going, I just took this video and I don't know what it is. And look at it. I mean, we know what a drone looks like. We know what a balloon looks like. We know what a plane looks like. If it doesn't look like those things, you got to sit there and ask yourself, what the heck is that? And it's that simple. I mean, it really is. But
well, and then what's the other guy's name? Gosh, I always forget his name. He was talking about the same thing, kind of Tucker. What Tucker touched on, I need to find his name. I think it was one of the guys that Sean had on his show. I just can't remember his name. It's not Stephen Greer, but he's like pretty up there and he's got information on this stuff. And I guess he said that, you know, what people think that they're, you know, they know about UAP, they have no idea. And he's like, he's like, yeah, I was never a religious man. And then he was like, and then some of the information I got, he's like, I got really close to God really quick, because once you start figuring out what some of this stuff really means, he's like, you just don't sleep much and you just need something to believe in. I was like, all right. So, and this guy, like, he just went on a bender and then, you know, about this whole thing. And Sean's like, well, what can you displace? He said, what legally I can displace at this moment. And he says what he thinks. And I gotta when I get the video, I'll pop the link on the bottom. You guys can watch it, but I'll get the clip. But yeah, it's pretty creepy stuff when those guys start talking like that. You're like, okay, so what does that mean for us?
Right. Yeah, no, it's scary when you think about it. I mean, you know, I've heard what UFOs are, right? I mean, and again,
I'll later.
I've been into UFOs for a long time, Jesse, and I'm religious. I believe in God. I believe in, you know, Jesus Christ and all that. And I sit there and I think, okay, but yet I also believe that there's UFOs, right? So how does that affect me in my life? And so you think about where could they be from and all that stuff. Well, okay, space is ginormous, right? So I do believe that things can come from other places, right? But then I start thinking about with religion and all that, could all this stuff be demonic? So that, you know, that is also a theory that this stuff is just demonic and it's not from outer space. And so there, you know, there's theories of that as well.
Did you ever hear that clip of the guy that used to run the program in the Pentagon about the UAP? I can't remember what they called the program, but he's like on the phone. It's a leaked clip of him talking to another guy that's running it, and he said he's like freaking out. He's like, these things aren't from outer space. He says they're transdimensional, and he's like, we think they're demonic. And then there's a clip of this guy that used to run it, and he's telling another guy that's interviewing about it, well, I can't displace what I know, but he said, grab your Bible and hold on to it tight. And then the interviewer's like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, all I can tell you is we don't think they're from outer space. We think they're transdimensional, and I don't think people really know what they are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that.
And I'll try to find it real quick. YouTube.
So yeah, you know, there's a lot of that, but that's pretty much all I have on the old Peru, I guess, recap or update. But I want to go in on another FNDT. You know, we've got what went on with the bodies found in Peru. So Peru's kind of like the hot spot, right? I mean, it seems like things are always going on in Peru. And I want to play a little video of what the Japanese scientists, and I don't think this was actual.
Hey, Tim.
What was it called? I'm sorry.
The program is called ATIP.
ATIP,
and it's
yeah.
Louis Elizdo, former ATIP director.
Oh yeah, Louis Elizondo or whatever the heck his name is.
Yeah, Elizondo. I butchered his name bad, but
me too.
That's the guy that talks. He says that like, he goes on a tangent. He's like, "Oh yeah, this, and that." All right,
Elizondo. So, yep. So, all right. So here is just a little video on. So they had pieces of other bodies. So as we talked about the bodies found in Peru, there was more than just the 2 bodies presented in Mexico. They had other stuff. And so Japan, some Japanese scientists looked into some artifacts that was presented to them. So I'm going to play this.
When Maria looked at the bones of her fingers on the right side of the third finger, she noticed that there was no palm. There were only 5 joints. In other words, the giant hand has one more joint than the other. It's calculated from the size of the hand, according to the doctor. The fact that this creature is over 3 meters tall and clearly has a different structure from us humans is an even more surprising fact, since it is extraterrestrial. What is this? What is this?
So, did you hear that? It's extraterrestrial. I mean, that's what a scientist said.
What is this? What is this? There is a mysterious object that is not a bone or stone. What is more, that mysterious object is in the palm of the hand. Let's take a look at the real thing that is on both the back of the hand. The color is black, and the color is square.
So it looks like some sort of implant.
Yeah.
And it was on both hands, it looks like. So each hand was a little different. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's what the hands look like. But,
On the other hand, when Maria looked at the bones of her finger...
I hit play on accident there. But, so that's what they had in Japan. That's what was sent to them. So I guess my question to Neil would be, what were the ones that he was invited to go see, down in Mexico? Did they have implants? Was there anything on those hands? Yeah. I mean,
well, he went down there and he did an investigation. And honestly, it was pretty good.
Yeah. No, Neil didn't do jack or shit. I mean, so there's a story about Neil, and he said there's 2 things going on down in Mexico with those bodies. He goes, Jack and shit, and Jack just left town. And that's a story that Neil would say. And my whole deal is there's more evidence coming on and coming out that those bodies are real. And, from what they saw off of those 2 hands or whatever that they had in Japan, they didn't say that they were forged, that they were man-made, or someone put bones of something other together, because that was always, the big story, that they were paper mache or, someone made them and this and that. There's none of that. I mean, I've seen nothing coming out saying that anything presented from what they found in Peru is fake. Nothing. I mean, if it was, that would have came out instantly, right? I mean, all these things that were sent all over, people would be saying, yep, that's all bullshit. It's fake. Someone made that. It's, Joe Blow in Story City, Peru made that, at a taxidermy place, and yeah. None of that's coming out.
Yeah, and I don't think Japan was the only ones that received anything either.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I think,
yeah, there was other places that had it, but all I'm saying is nothing.
They just haven't came out about it.
Right, nothing's come out. I had not seen one thing other than just people like Neil saying it's fake. I've never seen anybody that has evidence or anything sent to them saying that it's fake. Nobody said that. And this has been going on for years, dude. This has been going on since 2017, I believe, or 19, one of the two. It might have been 2019.
I think it's 19.
Yeah, I mean, so this has been going on for years, and nothing's come out saying it's fake. But yet, Neil says it's fake.
Well, I mean, he is a scientist, brother. We're just gonna have to take his opinion and run with it.
Well, you're right. You're right. But that's why we have these FNDTs, because we want to do the other side, you know? I mean...
No, I get it. I think he's a part of a canceling agenda. You know, hey, just say that's all BS and let's move on. You know, like, that's what that is.
It's got to be, right? I mean, that's all I can say about that. I mean, it's got to be something to that effect. But I just want to push this out because it is, and I can't say this enough, because this is probably it's not really our first FNDT, right? I mean, this is probably our second.
No, we had a whole FNDT episode.
Right.
So
this is probably our
segment.
Yeah, this is our second FNDT. So there you go.
This will be our second FNDT.
Yeah.
But anyways, other than that, a big thing just happened in Iowa.
Well, I got one more thing though. So I want to talk about next week. So this is what's going on next week. So we want to talk about, you know, is this the whole alien thing and all that real or not, right? I mean, we want to talk about that. Well, so next week there's going to be, you know, it's a closed session, and it's going to be, there's an oversight committee talking about UAPs and UFOs, right? And so they're going to go with a Congress, session. They're an oversight committee. And they're going to talk with David Grush, I believe, is who's going to be the main speaker. And, you know, again, this is going to be closed, so the public isn't going to really know what's going on other than what they allow us to know. And the funny thing is the members of this committee, a lot of these guys are not cleared for top secret or black program clearance. And I guess what I would like to know, and you know, maybe you know, Jesse, because I don't know the whole, you know, clearance and all that type of stuff. But what is it, you know, let's say you're on a committee, right? You're on an oversight committee, but you don't have clearance for super top secret or black program. I gotta assume you have to leave, right? I mean, you cannot be present when that stuff is presented. So if the majority of those dudes on that oversight committee can't be present, what is the point? What's the point? And is it more for show? Is it, I mean, what is it?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's just for show, right? I mean, I don't think it's a lot of them can't be in there, is it? I thought it was a few guys. I'm pretty
sure there's a few, right? There's a few, I know.
But it's not the whole committee, obviously.
No.
The majority of the committees probably got. What do you mean?
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, no, you're right. But there's at least two that can't be in there, but they are on the oversight committee of something that they're not privy to, right? I mean, they're supposed to be the oversight committee of something, yet, yeah, but you can't. I mean, that's asinine to me. I mean, that's like, it makes no sense. I mean, it's government, right? I mean, it's the way we are. I mean, you're supposed to be the boss of that person, but yet you're not. You can't be. I mean, you don't have the authority to be that person's boss. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, I think
that's been the struggle. That's been the struggle of this whole thing anyway.
Right, and I think it's just stupid. I mean, but at least they're doing it. And I guess my question is, are they putting this out in the public information for show to show the asinineness of what's going on? Right? I mean, are they making it public to just show that, look, we're supposed to oversee these people. We're supposed to know what they're doing, yet I don't have clearance to know what they're doing because of our bureaucracy. I mean, yeah. I hope that's for show, right? I mean, you got to assume that they're doing that on purpose. They're making this public and going, hey, look at this. But again, this is going on next week. I've seen it on some news media like Newsmax and some other things, but this isn't, again, it's not a big thing, right? Why is this not huge? Why is this not like all over and going, yeah, oh man, we're going to find out. And they're going into a closed session. It's amazing to me.
Did you see where Dr. Stephen Greer said that he was going to guys, like top guys in the Pentagon, and telling them like, hey, like showing them documentation, and they're like, why don't I know about this? And then he's like, well, I don't know. And then, you know, I think it's crazy that the president of the United States, like when Bill Clinton tried to get in on the UFO stuff, and they told him, no. I'm like, he's the president. He's supposed to be the most powerful man in the country. And you're telling that president, no, you can't see any of this.
Right.
And you're not going to.
Right. Yeah, no, it's nuts. Yeah, it's nuts.
So, and it's all about the, you know, the black budget programs. They're the only ones that have the security clearance to go see all this stuff.
Right. You know, and then, you know, you sit there and think, right, so like if the president of the United States were to show up somewhere that's black budget and he's not supposed to know, but it's still government run, would he be allowed access? I mean, he's a president.
I don't think he would.
How would that go down, though? I mean, if he came with, like, dudes, said, hey, I'm going in. What are you going to do? I'm the president. I'm going in. What are they going to do?
He'd probably end up like JFK.
Yeah, I mean, could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if the president pulled like the top guys and said, "You guys are coming with me real quick, and we're gonna go check this out,"
we're gonna do it.
I think he might. I don't know if you got enough manpower there, and they're just, what are they gonna do? Tell you no?
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think he could. But how do you do that? I mean, he's got other things to worry about than that, right? I mean, I would hope he's doing other things, but God, maybe this is a bigger thing than we think, and maybe this is the most important thing. I mean, imagine.
Well, if nobody checks them, right?
Right. But imagine this: if they prove, and it comes out finally, that there's all this stuff, like what we've been talking about, it's real. How much of the world's problems might start going away if we realize there's something bigger going on than us, right, on this planet? If there is UFOs and all that, I mean, do you think this could bring the world together somewhat? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I do. But that's the problem, though. There's no money in peace.
Yeah, but and you're right. I mean, you take greed into account, right? I mean, it's all about greed and all that. But if you can show that there's other things bigger than us going on, and this and that, and maybe there's things that could bring us together and make people more prosperous and quality of life, right? I mean, if we could solve a ton of problems in this world based on technology that we have and we know, but we don't release it because, again, greed, and they can't make money. You know what? God, I just think it would be a great thing if we could go down that road. But yeah, I don't know. I think ultimately that's what everybody wants, right?
What is peace?
Peace
And prosperity?
Prosperity, right.
Yeah. That's the problem. So, like, you know, that Sean Ryan show with Stephen Greer, like he said, there's ways we can get free energy right now, and it'll come out of the vacuum of space, right? There's equipment out there, like where you don't need generators, you don't need anything. You can power a car, your house on one, whatever. So, allegedly, or what would happen would be free energy, right? And he said, how many third world countries would you have if you had free energy? You wouldn't.
Right.
You just wouldn't.
Right.
So, but there's a problem with that, and the problem is if you have free energy, well, all the gas companies go under, and those guys run a huge section of lobbies and everything else. And then, not to mention, you got another problem with everybody prospering and everybody, you know, free energy and all this, and that, and they talk about it. That would create peace. There's no greed because, hey, we don't have to fight over this land for these pipelines and this and that and blah, 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 right? You don't have any of that anymore, so therefore you lose money in the military-industrial complex. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's what people don't realize is we have all that already. I mean, you're telling me we discovered gasoline cars in 1920 and we're still on an electric car or a gas car? No. And people are like, we're going green. You're not going green. The gas companies won't allow it. They make it look like we are. We're not. There's going to be gasoline and diesel vehicles running until we run out of fuel. They're going to make every dollar they can off of it.
Yep. No, I agree.
So, and you're telling me that you got scientists out here who can go out and they can tell you just the craziest stuff, right? And you'll find they found the cure to COVID in 6 months, but you haven't found the cure to cancer in 40 years. Yeah, I'm sorry, or 50, or however long. It's been hundreds of years, whatever the case may be. I don't care, but whatever time frame, they can make all these vaccines and all these medicines to cure literally everything they can't make money on in the medical field, but cancer.
Right. Yep, you're 100% right.
It's all about money, and a lot of it's about power.
Yep. So hey, let's close with what you were gonna talk about.
Well, actually, you probably know more about it than I do. Obviously, so the shooting that happened in Perry, Iowa.
Yeah, terrible deal. Happened Thursday. I didn't know about it until my daughter sent me a text, said, hey, Dad, look at the news. So, of course, I go on the national news, and it's not on there. And it was, I don't even remember what was on the news. And I responded. Here, I can tell you what I responded because it was kind of funny. I said, so there was fake bomb threats all over the country on Thursday. Yeah. Did you see that? So I thought that's what she was talking about. And I said, what, all these fake bomb threats? And she's like, no, there's a shooter in Perry. And I'm like, oh. And so I'm sure everybody knows in Perry, Iowa, they had a mass shooter in Perry, Iowa. And it was a terrible deal. Dylan Butler was the shooter. And I think he was a student. Is that correct? I read different things. I thought he was out of school, but maybe I'm wrong. Was he still a student?
I don't know.
See, I don't know.
That right now.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I'm not going to say I know because I don't know. I read, so I got online. He's a former student. Okay. Yep. So, I got online and I read a lot of stuff, dude. I mean, I read a lot of stuff, and not from the news. I was on Facebook looking at stuff. And you get on Facebook and social media and stuff, you got to take things with a grain of salt, because how much is that just opinion versus factual knowledge? So I heard all sorts of things going on, and I'm not even going to talk about what I read, because I don't want to set myself up for anything, but I read all sorts of bad, negative things, right? All I know is, there was a poor 6-year-old that was killed. That was terrible. Multiple students, shot. The principal was shot. And from what I will say, from what I've read, kudos to him. He was trying to protect his students, and that's a great thing. And as we talked about, you like to think that your principal would do what this guy did, but you put yourself into that situation. How many people have the guts to do what he did? I don't know. I can't tell you I would do that. I don't know. I would like to think I would, but to really do it, that's a whole different thing. That guy, that was a big thing. That was great for him. Not great for him. Just heroic. How about that? That was very heroic. But one thing I would like to say is, mental illness is a big thing, right? And obviously, Dylan had problems, and why he had problems, I don't know. But it's just terrible. And I pray and wish nothing negative towards his family, and it's just sad. It's sad that he went down a road he did, and you just hope that people like him could come to a better place, right? Find a better way to do what they think they need to do, and I get, and that's mental illness, but they're obviously not thinking right, and it's just sad. There's always going to be that. There just is. You just hope it doesn't happen, but it does, right?
Yeah, and he posted on TikTok before he went and did the shooting. And then I guess after the shooting, he went to the bathroom and posted another TikTok saying, "Now we wait."
Right.
Which is, another thing, you've been to Perry, right?
Yes, and I'm supposed to be there next Thursday. So I do, for Roland Story Wrestling, it's the Northman Network. I do the wrestling radio broadcast, and we're supposed to be there next Thursday. And again, at this point in time, I don't know if that's still going to happen. I have no idea. We're planning on it happening, because we don't know any different. Multiple thoughts on there. Are they going to try to get back to normalcy by then? But then you still think about all the stuff that they have going on. Maybe that's not the time. I don't know. But I'm just planning for it. But yeah, that's where I'm supposed to go. I've never been in their high school that I can remember. Maybe I have, but I don't know. You've been there, right?
Yeah, I've been to Perry a couple of times.
Yeah, I've never been in the high school, so I don't know. And I can tell you this, it'll be a solemn event. It just won't feel like a normal event when I go. I'll just be thinking of that the whole time. I don't know how anybody couldn't, right?
Yeah, and I know, I've been to Perry. It's really not a big town, right?
No, it's not.
I cannot get through my head like how it takes 7 minutes for the arrival of, the officers. 7 minutes in that town. There's no reason for that.
Actually, I thought I heard they were there sooner than 7, but maybe not.
No, it was 7.
Was it 7?
That was what was. Yep.
You know, to me,
and I'm not blaming the officers. Obviously, clearly, I'm not blaming them. But 7 minutes, and a lot of people don't. They don't believe in the more gun method. I believe there should be an armed individual in the school, and here's why. It took the officers 7 minutes to get there, and I'm not saying that's their fault, but this is the point I'm trying to make. It happened in those Texas church shootings. One of the guys in the audience at the church, he was armed. The kid came in, he made one shot. He shot one shot, and this old gentleman in the back shot him before he could shoot. I mean, you got to think, walking into a church where everyone's unarmed, it's shooting fish in a barrel. I don't see why someone wouldn't want, an armed individual in the school that could be trusted. You trust the police to go into that school with firearms. Why can't you trust another guy that has the credentials to do it?
Right. And I would agree with that. And maybe, down the road, that's where things kind of lead. And I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, I think that's a way better idea than taking everybody's guns. I mean, don't take my guns. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, I don't want my guns taken. But, had the principal been armed, that could have been a whole different story, right?
Yep.
So, but that's not for me to debate. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't have the authority to make that change, but I'd love to see that.
But change comes from people going to their leadership and saying this has to change.
Yep.
So actually, this is something that we should be talking about.
No,
this is something that we should be pushing.
And I agree. I think, in my opinion, I think that's the road to go. Because, you're not going to take guns away from everybody, right? I mean, the bad guys are going to get guns no matter what. I mean, they're going to get them. And, it's always the bad guys that make the gun violence the violence. You don't hear about the good people with guns causing violence. There's a lot more people with guns that don't do anything with the guns that are the good people, but you don't hear about them, right? You hear about the bad people. And
if you look at, so they did a little test run in a town, you can look this up. What town in Georgia made it so that in order to live in the town, you had to own a firearm and have a carry permit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they were having problems with their crime, and then the mayor said, "Hey, everybody that lives here needs to get a carry permit and carry a firearm. Anybody that's new coming into the town, they have to, right? Their crime is virtually nothing, and if there is crime, it's like petty little stuff, like they'll go and steal something out of someone's shop.
You'll have crime. I mean, you're not getting rid of crime. It's the violence, right? It's the
violent crimes were virtually none.
Right. So, and that's
Georgia.
Yeah. No, I believe it. I mean, it only makes sense because look, I mean, if I'm a bad guy, right? I'm a criminal. I'm gonna go rob a liquor store or a store. Am I gonna pick a place that I know that dude's packing? He's got something behind the counter. I'm not going there. And it's the same thing with any other crime. Look, I want to rob that person. Oh, shoot, they got a gun. I'm not going to go to that person. I mean, it makes sense, right? You're going to think about your well-being, and you're not going to go mess with anybody who's got a gun. I mean, if you bring a gun to a gunfight with multiple guns, you're going to think twice about going to the fight, period. Right?
Well, yeah. And I get when this happens, they get frustrated and, their emotions get the best of them. But here's the problem. If you look at, so now there are 7 states. Ross, look it up what 7 states there are. The school it has to have an armed guard in those states. They made it that every school has to have an armed guard. And Arkansas being one of them. And the first school. So it wasn't their first school shooting. This it was like their second or third, and one of them was in Jonesboro. After that happened, Governor Huckabee made it so that there has to be a school resource officer in every single school. And I don't know, I think it was about 5 years ago that happened. There hasn't been any violent crimes at the school since, right? And I'm not saying, people are like, well, that's just happened. It's not been that long. Well, okay, great, but it's there.
Yeah, no, it takes time for things. When you make the right decision, it takes time for things to show that it was the right decision, right? But yeah,
so the states that have it, I think it says, make sure that's right. What are the 6?
Ohio, Colorado, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Washington State, and Arkansas.
Yeah. So, and what's crazy is some of those states, like they're blue states, and they're starting to do it because they have the most problem. Not they don't have the most problems with them, but they have larger populations, and when you have larger populations, there will be more violent crimes. But yeah, so there's 6 states already doing it, and I think Washington did it while I was out there, and I think it addressed violent crimes around the schools, around them too, not just in them, around them, so people know there's a school resource officer in there. Don't go trotting onto the campus and try to do something, right? Because then you got problems.
No, and I agree, and but back to the whole Perry thing. I just sad deal. You hate to see that happen, and again, yeah. I pray for everybody involved. It's just a bad, sad thing, and yeah, it'd be nice if we could figure something out, as a country and society to help prevent this, right? To deter it and just help prevent it. And like you said, the goal of having people armed is not, I guess, a reactionary thing. It's a deterrence, right? If people knew that they're armed, then you start to think about it, right? I'm going to get shot, or it's not going to happen, type of thing. It's not a prevention.
My thing with that whole, people that don't want more guns they don't want, that's the theory they call it, the more gun theory, right? The people that don't want a school resource officer in the school to protect the children, to me, is crazy because, and I understand if you don't agree with it, I get it. But at this point, why not try new things to help and just see if it works? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll quit it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, but at this point, nothing's changing, so let's try something.
Right. No, I agree. We need to do something. I mean, it's just sad that, this goes on, right? And it seems like it's like almost like every other year or every 3 years, this kind of thing happens. And we don't seem to go down any sort of avenue. We talk about it, we debate it, we talk about guns, and it seems like it always goes to the ARs, right? Oh, it's an AR thing. Well, this was an AR thing. This was a shotgun and a handgun. So this had nothing to do with ARs or handgun, or it had nothing to do with ARs. It was shotgun and a handgun. So, but this could very well have been a knife. It could have been an axe. It could have been, it could have been whatever. At that school, I mean, you had a
mental health,
middle school and high school together. Right. I mean, it could have been a car. It could have been running down kids coming off a bus. It's a mental health thing.
There was 2 incidents in Britain like 2 years ago where a guy ran everybody down in a car. He killed 55 people. No, it was look that one up. I think it was like 100. And then there was an incident in China where a man ran into a train station with a knife and he killed 55 people.
Yeah.
With a knife.
And again,
so
like you said,
regardless, all over the world.
Yeah, it's a mental health issue. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. I mean, it's a mental thing. The person's obviously depressed, suicidal, something, right? And they choose whatever avenue they want to do their bad deed. I mean, that's really what it is. And again, it's sad, but it could have been anything, right? It could have been any avenue.
And they need to quit putting the shooter's name up for everybody. So, because a lot of them do this to be remembered, right? Even if it's bad, and then once it becomes a trend, right? Everybody's like, when they get to that mode, I'm not saying everybody that has those problems. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, the people that do choose to shoot up the schools and do stuff like that, these guys just want their name engraved in something, even if it's bad or it's good. They don't really give a shit, right? So we need to stop broadcasting who did it and take the light off of them, because, I mean, he's that. People that do that are sick, they think that's great when you give them praise. It's not praise, but you're talking about them, and that's what they want.
They're being infamous, right? I mean, their name is just going to be known for something, right? But I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychology major. I don't know all of that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answers, Jesse, especially on that.
I mean, I don't either. I don't either, but they just shouldn't be putting him out there. I mean, I understand. And what do you gain from it? Like, so it's family of that guy that probably doesn't have anything to do with it is going to get shamed. I mean, from now on.
And the thing is, it's news. I mean, it's hard to get the news not to put that out, right? I mean, what do you do? They're going to do it. They're going to do it. But hey, that's really all I had for this episode. I don't know. Did you have anything else to go over?
No, that's it, man.
I didn't know if Ross had any, picks or anything you want to put up, or.
Nope.
See.
There was a bombing too in Britain. Or UK. Just put UK. I don't know if it was in the town of Britain, or Great Britain, whatever they call it. I don't remember. That sounds bad, but yeah, I don't know anything about the UK. So sorry.
Well, why?
I've never been there. Don't plan on going there. Yeah, I don't know. We fought.
You want to go there someday, don't you?
No.
Just to visit.
There's nothing there.
How about Ireland?
No.
You want to go to Ireland and have some potatoes?
I'll go to Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Ireland looks like a decent place.
Well, there you go, brother. So hey, again, let's talk about, we're still waiting for that first email on our email here.
Yep.
Yeah, shockthenation2023@outlook.com. So again, send some vids, videos of anything you want. How do you know that? And, this is a short episode, so we didn't do the how you know that. Otherwise, I mean, I could tell you how you know that. I mean, I could give you one right now. You watch the geese and the ducks fly. Have you ever looked at? They're in that V formation.
Yeah.
And wondered, have you ever looked how one side's longer than the other?
Yep.
Do you know why that is?
No.
Well, it's because if you count on one side or the other, there's more on that side. So that's why. But there you go. That's how do you know that. And but hey, send us some videos on your video of how do you know that. We could also use some new intros. So anything like that, any suggestions on what you want us to talk about, Jesse's looking for an outro. If you got some crazy thing for an outro, we would love to put that on as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go, brother.
Yep, that's it. So we'll cut it off from there, and I appreciate everybody that watched our videos, that likes, subscribes, and if you comment. So I appreciate that.
Salt?
Salt.
Salt?
Salt? Salt? Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hey,
All right,
FMDT, number 2.
All right, I appreciate it. We'll let this one off. You gotta do it.
You can't not hit that.